carving the rock, writing the paggy big dreams, are loud but small daily steps, do the building. If your goal is the rock, your calendar is the chisel. Consistency is quiet until it isn't, then it's a monument. Arov lived in a modest village with a grand dream, to become a writer. His head was a crowded sky of scenes and voices. Ideas swooped in like swift birds, bright, sudden, impossible to hold. He would write to pages and feel unstoppable, then lose steam the next day. He would start a journal, fill 3 entries, and let it disappear under a stack of half-finished notebooks. Weeks became months. The dream stayed lit, but his effort flickered, scattered like pieces of a puzzle no one sat down to finish. One evening, frustrated with himself, Arov walked to the riverside. The river kept returning to the same shore again and again, never missing polishing stones without hurry or applause. On the bank, an old man sat with a small chisel, tapping at a large rock. The tool looked too weak, the stone looked too strong, yet the tapping continued, steady, patient, a heartbeat with purpose. "How long have you been working on this rock, Bubba?" Arov asked, surprised. The old man smiled. 1 hour every day, for 2 years. 2 years, with that tiny chisel, Arov blurted. "Didn't you get tired? Didn't you lose hope?" The old man's eyes were gentle. "This chisel alone could never break the rock, but my consistency, my daily effort, that is what makes the impossible possible. The rock does not change in one strike. Every strike counts. It is not the force of one blow, but the repetition of many, that shapes it." The word settled inside Arov like a seed finally finding soil. He walked home with the river's rhythm in his ears, tap, 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 a quiet drum for courage. That night he made a promise he could keep. 1 page a day. Not a perfect chapter. Not a whole book. Just 1 honest page, every single day, no matter what. He set up guardrails so small they couldn't scare him. A 15-minute timer to begin. Phone in another room. A calendar taped to the wall where he would mark an X for each day he wrote. The first row of X's was short. Then it stretched across the week, then across the month. Soon the marks looked like a chain he didn't want to break. The first week was easy. His pen raced, his mind danced, the pages felt light. Then the test arrived. Some mornings his eyes were heavy. Some nights his thoughts were thin as mist. Doubt whispered, "You're not good enough." Laziness coaxed, "Skip today, write to tomorrow." Arov remembered the old man's voice. Every strike counts. On the hard days he wrote a few lines. When inspiration ran dry, he wrote simple sentences. When fear grew loud, he wrote anyway. He learned to lower the gate on distractions. If a new idea tried to drag him to a different project, he said, "Not now," and captured a quick note for later. If a sentence felt clumsy, It's day 366 of 1,000 days of studying the masters. And today we're studying The Power of Consistency by Stephen Geiss. This is a short story about a writer named Arov who wants to write a book, but he struggles to stay motivated and consistent with his writing, so he goes to a park to clear his head. And there he sees an old man carving a sculpture. The old man tells him that the secret to his craft is not in the skill of the cut, but in the consistency of the taps. The harder he works, the slower he cuts, and the longer he works, the deeper the cut becomes. He realized that every line, every shape, every curve was the result of hundreds, thousands of touches. Arov thought about all the times he had started and stopped projects, and he realized that maybe it wasn't his ideas that were the problem, but his follow-through. So he decided to start small. He just wanted to get words onto paper. He left it clumsy and kept going. He stopped waiting for the perfect mood and started trusting the habit. The words weren't always beautiful, but they were there, ink on paper, 1 page closer. Days folded into weeks. Weeks became months. The stack on his desk thickened. 50 pages, 100, 200, 300. He didn't chase a mood. He kept a promise. He didn't argue with doubt. He outlasted it. The book came together the way the river carves a curve, slowly, unavoidably. When he finished the last page, Arov felt a quiet pride he had never known before, the kind that docenti shout because it docenti need to. He typed the manuscript and sent it to publishers. Then came the wait. Then came rejections, simple, polite, and heavy. Old thoughts crept back like cold air under a door. Maybe you're not a real writer. But consistency had done more than produce pages. It had produced a person who could continue. Arov kept writing another page, another book, another submission. He reminded himself, a no is not the end of the rock. It's one more tap. He returned to the river sometimes, for the silence that moves you forward. The old man was still carving. Now you could see what the stone was becoming, curves where there had been only corners, lines where there had been only stubborn weight. The sculpture had a face, Not yet finished, but unmistakably alive. Arov smiled. He knew what that felt like, a shape emerging from steady, ordinary effort. His life began to arrange itself around the habit. He wrote one page before he checked any messages. He kept the calendar of X's in plain sight. On heavy days he used the smallest chisel 10 minutes and proved to himself that even a thin line of progress is still a line. On brighter days he stayed longer at the desk, not out of panic, but out of momentum. He wasn't frantic anymore. He was faithful. The year before, I'd written, "It takes 2 years to build a reader." Write for 2 years. Even if no one reads you, even if no one ever will, you'll have something to show for it. It'll be worth it. And exactly 2 years later, a letter arrived with a yes. A small press believed in my book. We shook hands, did the paperwork, and then I went back to writing, waiting for the next yes. It wasn't a lottery win, but it felt like reaching a bend in the river that I always knew was there. Then readers discovered my book, and slowly messages trickled in. One from a teenager who wrote, "Your story helped me keep going." Another from a teacher who said her shy, introverted student had started keeping a daily journal for the first time. A bookseller who'd bought a copy wrote to ask if I'd do a signing. A local paper ran a short interview with the headline, "Homegrown Author Makes Waves." My words were traveling, not because I'd shouted the loudest, but because I'd shown up the longest. And when people asked how I did it, how I got published, what my secret was, I found myself telling the same truth over and over. 1 page a day, I'd say, even on the days you don't feel like it, especially on those days. That's how the writer is built. I wasn't talking about discipline as punishment, but as permission to begin small, to keep it simple, to return. Because showing up is the permission to do all the work and to try and do better every day. Showing up is how you find out what works and what doesn't. Showing up is the only way to make progress, to get closer, to inch forward. I still visited the riverside. The old man still tapped away steady, patient, precise. And I watched, listened to the rhythm of his hammer, the splash of water, the trickle, trickle, trickle of water wearing away at the stone. And I saw that the sculpture now caught the light in ways the rough stone never could. Every angle told the same story. Not the miracle of a single strike, but the miracle of returning again and again and again. And I knew then that success hadn't replaced the habit. It depended on it. A published book didn't write the next page. A good review didn't put ink on paper. Only the habit did, so I kept the same rule. Begin with 1 page. The rest could come if it wanted. The day was already won. As my second and third books found readers, people said I was talented. I smiled, grateful and a little amused. Talent had given me a spark. Consistency had given me a fire that stayed lit in the rain. Moral success isn't what you do once. It's what you repeat, like drops of water carving valleys or a chisel shaping stone. Small, steady efforts become wonders when you keep showing up. If this story sparks something in you, protect the spark. Start your 1 page, your 15 minutes, your first small strike today. And if you'd like more stories like this, consider subscribing so we can keep walking this daily path of growth together.